Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional and a coach from Bangalore, India, Mr. Vishal Kumar Singh. Vishal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vishal is, in his own words, a super dad coach, and he's the founder of the platform of Papas. So, Vishal, my first question, tell me about your childhood and the role your father played in shaping who you are today.
Okay, so yes, my father was a very good family member, I would say. And that's where he has taken care of most of our emotional needs. Uh, yes, the financial needs and the other basic necessities that a father needs to provide. However, the emotional needs and the connection and the availability,
Hmm,
so this shaped my childhood, and I am giving the same thing to my kids.
very interesting. Was there a specific moment when you realized that a great provider was not enough to be a great father?
So this takes back to my engineering days, and I somehow got a feeling that though the provision was made in terms of finances or the necessary arrangements that I needed to be a good student, however, at that level, when you are a teenager, when you are stepping out of your house, there is an important human need that is called understanding. Someone needs to be understood, and somewhere I felt that was missing during the time I was stepping out of my house,
Hmm,
and that led to a bit of generation gap.
hmm. And how do you define the word super dad?
Okay, so basically, super dad is a superlative version of dads. So when I got into my self development and started learning things, I understood that all this while I was a prisoner of known. However, because of these learnings, I became someone who can look at possibilities for myself
Hmm,
and create a path forward. Okay. And in order to do that, one has to be his or her best version.
hmm. And
And
sorry,
when,
go ahead, please.
yeah, when you are at your best version, you are at ease.
Very
So
interesting.
this is a super dad.
Very interesting. And what, in your view, was the hardest part of transitioning from a corporate leader to a super dad coach?
Okay, so I wouldn't say a hardest part because I was a sales professional, and before getting into coaching, I had 3 years of a commission based role. So I had quit my full-time job to be with my daughter, but I
Hmm,
continued to work with same company on a commission basis as I was a sales professional. So the transition or the hardest part with the family member was my wife would tell me that in spite of quitting your job, you are still like that. So then my answer would be that this is a period of transition. At least I am at home and I am
hmm.
just a knock on the door away. So this I
Very,
could say was the hardest part.
very interesting. Tell me, you know, I've often said that the role of fathers has traditionally been seen as that of a provider and a protector. And yet, I know it's a much, much bigger role. Why do so many successful men struggle to build a strong relationship with their children?
Okay, so as you mentioned that the role of a father has been seen as more of a provider and a protector. This goes back to the times of independence, where men used to go out, fathers used to go out, and mothers or the women at home also knew that whatever work my husband or a masculine is doing outside is more important, and that is what they need to do because that is the priority at the moment.
Mm.
And they used to take care of all the, the widened things, taking care of home, taking care of, kids, kitchen, and also arranging lot many things, you know. And that is where there is a change now. So with that, during our grandparents' time, this used to be the case. During our parents' time, it was mix and match of all this, like how my father was a good, provider, available, an emotional person, and connecting with us. I still see, people from my friend circle that their fathers have not, given them this kind of life as well.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And now I see that because of all this, the trend is changing. So a father actually wants to express his fatherhood, but is unwilling to do so
Mm.
because of lot of other things that are going on in his life. And it's
Mm.
not only about parenting. It's there are a lot of other things, a lot of uncertainties now, especially jobs, layoff from jobs, okay,
Mm.
uncertain times, war times, and all that, and that is where we need to look life from inside out. So the focus is always on self. And in
Very,
spite of uncertainties, as long as we are able to see ourselves, we will remain grounded and focused on what we want to do.
very interesting. Tell me, Vishal, what are some of the common regrets fathers express when talking about the relationship with their children?
So the first regret I would see, especially when I meet fathers around 60, 62, 65, or 60 plus rather, is that all uh, the time they could have spent with their children, probably that went into providing. And this providing was not being in the same place and providing. It
Mm.
was like traveling countries and not being able to spend time with their kids.
Mm.
And now those kids have grown up, they are adults, they are working, and they are not spending time with their fathers.
Mm.
So the problem is when they were not there when kids were growing up. Now kids have become independent, and then they don't feel the need
Mm.
that they need to be with their father.
Mm. Very
So
interesting.
fathers think that what is that I have done wrong, because I was providing. All this was for providing for them so that they can be in good schools. I can give them good vacation. I can give them good lifestyle, and also save
Mm.
for future in
Very,
case I need to still provide them.
very interesting.
And second thing is, uh, people who are staying under the same roof, probably because of the demanding career, they have become so logical that they are unable to, handhold the kids well. And that is where the decision between them and the kids are logical.
Mm.
And this leads to a gap. And they are not even able to identify when the problem happened,
Mm.
because they are seeing this relation from, uh, you know, uh, I can say again a prisoner of known, or from one perspective, that
Mm.
I am a father, they are my kids, they should listen to me, this is how they should be, this is what they should achieve by the time they become adults and all that. So
Mm.
it's all about more of enforcing, their thoughts on, or their goals, their unfinished goals on their kids.
Very, very interesting. Thank you. Uh, Moving on, what are the biggest myths about fatherhood that need to be challenged? And how has the role of fathers evolved over the last few decades?
Yeah, so myths of fatherhood, I would say that in companies, I mean, unless until your peers become your personal friends, you can't even talk about your family members,
Correct.
you know, and you can't give a personal reason as an excuse, or, even if it is very important, like a sports day celebration, going to a PTM or something like that, you know. So this is where I feel companies should also come forward and because see, any employee can work only when he is taken care, when they are taken care rather,
Hmm.
right? So when their personal needs are not addressed, then it's of no use,
Hmm. Very
you
nice.
know.
Very nice.
So The core thing of my work is like mothers are already considered primary caregivers. So as a father, it is my initiative for other fathers to help them step into this role of presence and purpose. Okay, so it's all about co-parenting. Let fathers also not leave everything on mothers. Okay, when
Correct.
we can also do it, that is where a healthy family dynamics comes into picture.
Mm,
And the best that we can give our kids is a healthy family dynamics.
absolutely. Well said. Coming to the platform of Papas, what was the inspiration to create this platform? And why do you think modern fathers need a dedicated platform and a dedicated community?
Okay, thank you so much. So, this was born out of my own lived experience. So, as I mentioned before, that when my daughter was 6 months old, I saw how difficult it was for my wife to take care of our daughter alone. And we were actually we had got locked down in Noida at our in-laws' place, and that's when I realized that you know only a mother taking care of a child is highly difficult,
Correct.
and I felt the need to support her. And moreover, prior to that, I used to be a workaholic. So when I had held my daughter for the first time, I somehow got a feeling that I do not want to be a full time. I do not want to be a workaholic father for her. Okay, so this was transitioning. So I used to have 6 days a week, at office. So
Mm,
initially, it started with taking offs on Saturdays, and when this happened 6 months later, I decided that I don't want to go to office full time. This was in the year of COVID, March 2020, we had got locked out. Okay, so then I spoke to my friend and he was okay with it. So this happened. And then prior to that, I had started with my self development journey. So what happened was in three financial years, 2021, 21-22, and 22-23, I tripled my earnings when the focus was on being a hands on father. And then I again felt that my learnings need to be shared. And that's when I started learning coaching as a skill.
mm,
Because any father thinks that unless and until he earns money, he cannot take care of the family. And under this identity, fathers are hiding the pain of missing moments with their kids. So as a father, as a coach, I would like to address this.
well said. What are some of the common mistakes men make after they become fathers?
Okay. So I would put it this way that, taking things for granted that it's only a mother's job and not parenting well,
Mm,
and thinking that my uh, kids or kid, boy or girl, is still small. Only when he or she grows up will they think about me or know me or feel my absence or presence or whatever. However, the psychic development of children start from 6 months, 6 months onwards. Okay. And that is where when we are more available, the bonding starts happening and it keeps getting better over a period of time. Okay. So this is the first thing I could think of. Okay. So co-parenting, being with the kid. Third is, in spite of staying together under one roof, I think a lot of fathers are missing consistency. you
mm,
know so in spite of doing well in profession, they have considered they treat profession as something that requires their attention for 5 days and family only for 2 days.
mm,
Okay, so they feel that even if they spend time with their children on the weekends, their role is done.
mm.
Okay, so this is something that needs to be addressed. And it
Correct.
doesn't mean it has to be a quantity time. You don't have to. And I don't even say quantity time or quality time. Weekends when you have lot of time, spend entire day with them. And finally, that quality time will come out when the
Correct.
kids start sharing. Okay. However, if you don't have time during the weekdays, spend some time, but be disciplined enough without distraction.
Mm,
So that's why a space or self development is required where they can see things as they are rather than seeing things as you know we are.
absolutely. Great response.
And
You, yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah, just one
Yeah,
thing, considering that family is also an important aspect of life. You know, so
sure. I agree. I agree. You speak about family leadership. How is leading a family different from leading a business?
in fact, it is similar
Okay.
because both the areas of life, I can say, is full of uncertainties.
Mm,
So it's all about embracing uncertainties.
mm, okay.
So
Okay.
living in the moment and taking a decision, taking our best path forward, depending on what we are able to do.
Mm, mm, mm. My next question for you, Vishal, is how can fathers raise emotionally intelligent children if they themselves were never taught emotional intelligence?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and they can raise an intelligent children by working on themselves. So through self-development, they can become more emotionally aware, which means becoming emotionally fit now.
Okay.
Okay, and through availability for their children, connecting with their children,
Mm,
now they can show their emotions to their children. And see, children are born with emotions. That's the reason they are crying. That's the reason they are laughing, right? But over a period of time, especially uh, today's generation, they are actually surrounded by gadgets.
mm,
Consider our times. We were surrounded with either family members, friends, neighbors, or relatives, and our emotional needs used to somehow get met because of somebody being present in our within our vicinity.
mm,
you know. And here, because of the nuclear families, it has become very difficult that a kid talks to even the neighbors.
mm,
And that is where parents play a very important role. And somehow mothers are still able to take care of the emotional needs of the kids.
mm,
And that's where a father needs to work on himself so that he can emotionally connect, attach, or be vulnerable with their children.
mm. Very interesting. You also say fathers do not have to choose between ambition and family. How can they achieve both?
Yeah, so because suppose a father goes to a job and it's all extended hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, right? But then consider that after coming back, or even if it's a work from home scenario, he can take a break for 2 hours and not think about work. At least for those 2 hours, he can be with their family,
Mm,
right? So it's all about what we do during those or the time that is available to us. So,
mm,
which means better focus management, better energy management,
mm,
not remaining cluttered. So some people still have a relaxed job, which means they are working 9 to 6. But
mm,
however, because of uncertainties, war, they are still thinking about that. And they are not able to give their best version to their kids or family, right? So it's all about working on self. And rather than thinking of time management that, oh, if I had only 8 hours at work, I
mm,
could have given 2, 3 hours to my family, right?
mm,
And see, this is a journey. It cannot be explained in just a minute or so.
mm,
However, this is the crux. It's about better focus management, better energy management, so that kids, family experience our best version.
very fascinating. How important is vulnerability in fatherhood?
So, yeah, because vulnerability is one of the values, I can say, because if we can open up and talk to our children,
Mm,
they will understand the importance. And kids are learning by observing us.
yeah.
If they feel that we are hiding something, they will also hide something from us. And they will not only hide at a particular moment. whoever they meet outside, whoever they, connect outside, they wouldn't want to share their, the natural things to others,
Okay.
right? So vulnerability is courage.
Mm.
So what happens is, see, when my mother used to say that you should not tell your problems to others, people will laugh on you. Okay. And see, when till such time I was not telling people about my problems, what I was experiencing in life.
Mm.
And I got answers to those questions when I met my mentor for the first time.
Mm.
And that is when this self-development journey started.
Mm.
So many a times we don't see things as they are. I mentioned before, we see things as we are. And all this is conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. We shall have time for two more questions.
Yeah.
If your daughter was to describe you 50 years from now, what would you hope she says?
If it is one line, I can say that he was someone who was at home.
Mm.
That
Okay.
much. And then because I'm at home, she knows what all things I am doing.
Absolutely. Great line. And my last question for you. If you could tell every father in the world who's listening to our conversation, what is the single most important lesson you would teach them?
Okay. So one thing I would say is that if you feel stuck, if you feel you are dying, like I used to feel I was dying,
Mm.
back in the middle of 2018, I
Mm.
learned this during my self-development journey, that if you are not growing, you are dying,
Mm.
right? So whatever you are experiencing in life right now, just work on yourself. There are many things that we don't know.
Mm.
So let's come across things that we need to learn in life in order to become better. So
Mm.
that's why by self-development or through self-development, we keep becoming our better version, leading to the best version at the moment. And that is what is required, because then we see the larger perspective of life.
Mm.
Okay. Since you said only one thing, but I would like to say
Please,
a
please go
couple of
ahead. Tell
things,
me. Yeah.
that family is also important. So let them also prioritize family. Have a family code of honor. Some things may not be working out well. So have a family code of honor. Have a discussion rather than getting into who is right, who is wrong,
Mm.
because our next generation is watching us.
Very true.
And if we have to create our next generation, let us show them what they should carry forward as a legacy to their life.
Very true.
When they become adults, when they take
Mm.
responsibility, start taking responsibility, or when they have to own responsibility for a family.
Very true. Very true.
Because if you talk about work, if you talk about whatever is happening in the external world, so many changes are happening, jobs, AI. So we don't even know what they will experience in the external world. However, if the foundation is set, they will also get an environment where they can excel in life.
Mm.
And this is what is required.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, Vishal, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has been. You actually uh, have reinforced something that I've been saying for a long time, which is that the role of fathers is much more than that of just a protector and a provider. And as I see my sons looking after their children, I realize how much closer they are than my father was, but my father was my greatest friend, I know. um, so therefore I know that it's a very, very evolving relationship and a very critical relationship in the lives of all our children. Thank you also for talking to me about vulnerability. Unless as a parent, I mean, and as a father, we are not vulnerable to our children, that distance will continue to grow.
Yes.
So I think it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh ji. It was lovely. It was a lovely conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.